With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
The road is calling. Embrace the thrill of the drive with the fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron. Featuring effortless power, serious acceleration, and advanced Audi tech. It's not just a new EV, it's a new way to experience driving. The fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron. The next chapter of Audi is here.
I can only speak for myself, but I just don't want to hear anyone else's story about it. I've gotten 3 cousins' stories. I've gotten my 2 new sisters' versions. I probably have heard 15 people's stories regarding this man and how we all came to be. And I just don't feel like I can hear one more person talk about it. I don't want to hear one more person tell me what a great guy he was. I certainly don't want to hear anyone else tell me what a good father he was. It's dizzying, honestly. By the 3rd story from the 3rd cousin, I was dizzy with, what is even the truth? Did he love my mom? Did he not love my mom? Is he a predator? Is he just a really charming guy? Is this all a coincidence? I just don't know what's true anymore. And so I don't want to reach out to his widow primarily because I don't really believe anything she's going to say is probably going to be true because the truth is so subjective.
Yeah. Right?
We hold on to the version of the truth that serves us best.
Welcome to DNA Surprises, a podcast that delves into the world of unexpected DNA discoveries. I'm your host, Alexis Auersalt. In July 2021, my life took a surprising turn when I found out that I'm an NPE, a person who has experienced a non-paternal event. In other words, my biological father isn't who I thought he was. Join me as we explore the stories of NPEs, adoptees, and donor-conceived people and their families. Get ready to unravel the astonishing journeys that begin with a simple DNA test. This is DNA Surprises. Welcome to Season 12 of DNA Surprises. This season marks nearly 4 years of sharing these stories, and while each one is unique, the threads that tie our stories together remain strong. For example, there are many ways that people uncover their discoveries. Sometimes people learn about their parentage through who they connect to: a new cousin, an aunt, a parent. Others are more shocked by who they don't connect to. In this week's episode, Michelli reveals how she learned that the man she believed was her father was not genetically related to her at all. She shares what she learned about her biological father and why her feelings about him are complicated, how she connected with her sisters, and why she doesn't want to hear any additional stories about what happened. Thank you for sharing your story, Michelli.
My name is Michelli. I'm 51 years old, and I'm from San Antonio, Texas. I grew up knowing that the man I was calling my dad was not really my dad. I grew up with a stepdad, Ruben, who I loved and adored. I always believed that my biological dad was a man named Robert. And I held to that belief until March 2024, when a DNA test showed me that he wasn't my real dad. I actually had taken the DNA test in 2017 to get some health information. I had had some autoimmune things come up, and the man that I thought was my real dad, Robert, he never knew his dad. So I decided to take this DNA test in 2017, thinking it would give me some health data. It did, but I never looked at the DNA matches. Flash forward to 2023, I get this email that says you have this close DNA match on 23andMe. And honestly, Alexis, I don't know what made me look. I'd been getting emails from 23andMe for years, but I think it was that it said you have a close DNA match. And so I went and looked, and I had a relative that was showing up as either a cousin or a nephew. And silly me, I thought I had stumbled upon my quote unquote real dad's birth family. Like I thought I was about to be a hero.
Oh, okay.
Right?
So you didn't recognize the name, but that wasn't surprising to you because you were expecting that maybe you would connect with some
Right.
of his unknown
Right.
family.
The story was my biological dad, Robert, never knew his dad. So I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm the best daughter ever. I've just discovered Robert's family. Robert and I never really had a close relationship. In fact, I would say most of my life, it was a source of big disappointment. So when I saw this, I thought this is an opportunity for he and I to connect. So I reached out to him and his wife and I said, hey, I've connected with this young man. Do you recognize this name? They said no. And I said, do you want to take a DNA test? And he said yes. And I sent it to him for Christmas 2023. Meanwhile, this young man and I were talking about how could you be my nephew or cousin? So we're sort of like tossing back messages back and forth. And I have a brother, but I know he's not my brother's son because they're almost the same age. So I send Robert the DNA test in December. December comes and goes. January comes and goes. February comes and goes. Finally, I reach out to my stepmother and I say, hey, y'all, he hasn't shown up on my profile yet. And she says, oh, he's been talking to his biological family. He had gotten his DNA results. He'd connected with siblings. He'd found cousins. But he never showed up on my 23andMe profile, if that makes sense.
So you were sitting there thinking maybe he just hadn't taken the test and he was just sitting on it. You call and it turns out, no, he actually has connected with tons of his family. So he didn't reach out to you to let you know, hey, I did find people, but you said that you weren't particularly close.
We weren't particularly close, but it was a surprise to me that he didn't reach out to tell me.
He didn't notice that he didn't connect with you?
Well, that remains to be seen.
Okay. So you hear he's connected with his family, but you've put the pieces together now, or have you put the pieces together that he hasn't connected to you? Are you wondering still what that means? I
call 23andMe. I'm thinking this is a mistake, right? And I've heard a lot of people say this. Like I get on the phone with customer service. I'm saying like, hey, my dad's not showing up on my profile. And they said, and I'll never forget, and I even had them email me, there's no genetic connection between you and this person, Robert. And I mean, talk about a full-scale dismantling of reality. I was sitting at my dining room table in an instant, like my whole life was unraveling. What does this mean? I go straight to my husband's office and I show him the email and he says, let's go to your mom's. He's like, let's go. My husband's wonderful. So he says, let's go figure this out. So we get in the car and we go to my mom's. Now remember, this cousin/nephew, he and I have been communicating this whole time through 23andMe. So I know a little bit of his background. I know his last name. I know his family names. And the lady at 23andMe, the customer service representative said, this cousin that you've connected is more than likely a nephew. The percent of overlap between you and this young man is he's probably your nephew. So all in this day, I'm realizing this is not my dad. Oh, I have this nephew, which means I also have some siblings somewhere.
Now, when you connected with who you later find out is probably your nephew, is he giving you tons of family information and you're thinking that this all maps to your dad?
Oh, yeah.
Did he think that there was some unknown person out there?
This sweet guy was just like, he was like, I don't know how you're related to me, but I'll tell you whatever you want to know. And so he's just like, well, here's my grandfather, here's my other grandfather, here's my mom's name. We're trying together to piece together, how are we related? And he's thinking he's going to be a part of this magical moment where I tell my, quote unquote, real dad that I have found his long lost family, only to discover, no, I have found my long lost family.
What is going through your mind? Now you're not matching with your dad. You find out that this young man is your nephew. What are you thinking?
I don't even know if I was thinking. I was in that dizzy, investigative mode that I think so many of us go into immediately. It's like for NPEs, it's fight, flight, or investigate. So I went into investigate, right? Yes. And all the drive to my mom's house, it's about a 40-minute drive. I am scouring the internet. I am looking all through these 23andMe profiles. And there's only two options, right? Like, this kid and I are connected. He only has two grandfathers. So one of his grandfathers is related to me, or his mom or dad. So I go to my mom's house and I say to my mom, Mom, did you ever know a man named Stacy? And she says, why? Stacy was one of the names I got from the young man I connected with. So I said, did you ever know a man named Stacy? And she says, why? And I knew immediately. My husband and I looked at each other and I said, is it possible that he's my dad? And she said, yeah, you look just like him. At this point, I'm 50 years old, right? Or I guess 49 at that time. And she said it just like that.
How are you feeling to hear her say that so nonchalantly?
I felt like I was going to faint. I just didn't see it coming. I've heard a lot of people's stories, people saying like, I always thought there was something different, but I always knew, right? I always knew my stepdad is not my real dad. My real dad is kind of absent from my life. I always had that story. It never occurred to me that there was actually another absent father.
Were you close at all to who you thought was your biological father's family or anyone from that side?
No, I wasn't. My alleged biological father and his family kept their distance from me. And in hindsight, I think that they always knew. And I think that's why he didn't call me when he got his DNA results. All the investigative work I've done, I think he always knew he wasn't my real dad, which in some ways makes him a hero, right? Because while he didn't show up for me very much, he did show up for me a lot for someone who wasn't even actually my dad, if you flip the perspective that way.
Okay, so your mom just drops this information very casually. Did she give you any more details about your biological father and how they met or anything like that at that time?
On that day, she told me that she was married to my alleged biological father, Robert, and her and Stacy had an affair. My mom was 19 years old and Stacy was in his late 20s. And they had an affair. She got pregnant with me, and Stacy knew that I was his, and according to her, they were in love, and he saw me until I was about 3 years old, when she then met my stepdad and married him, and then that was my dad.
Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, it's Paris. I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
And do you have any memory of Stacy?
No, none,
Okay.
none. So of course I did another DNA test, right? Even though my mom told me I still needed to confirm. So I did an ancestry test, which opened the door actually to a lot more relatives, which has been just an absolute whirlwind. I mean, what I found out is that this man, Stacy, actually had multiple relationships with multiple young women. And I have that I know of 5 other siblings.
Was Stacy married when he had the affair with your mother?
Yes, he was married throughout all the relationships. He was married until he died in 2006.
So you find out through Ancestry, which for if people don't know who are listening, Ancestry has the deeper well of testers, right? More people have taken Ancestry than 23andMe or some of the others. So people are more likely to find matches when they take an Ancestry test, right?
Right. So he had 3 kids with his wife. The other 3 of us are from extramarital affairs. He impregnated my mom in 1974. He impregnated my sister's mom in 1977. And then I have another sister that was born in 1997.
What are you feeling as you're uncovering these additional people?
Well, there's so many stories emerging. So there's my story of, oh my God, my dad is not who I thought he was. And the man who is actually my biological dad is deceased. So I'm grieving on more than one level, right? My stepdad, who I love and who I know would have had the answers to all of this, is also deceased. The man who I thought was my biological dad, I'm grieving him too, even though we didn't have a great relationship. I'm grieving him and I'm grieving for him. There's so much grief. I'm finding out that I have all these siblings that I didn't know about. And I'm finding out that many of us were born as a result of affairs. And 3 of us, our mothers were very young when they were in relationship with him. And they all worked for him. I don't know how to feel about that. Like, how do I feel about this man who has affairs with these young women, impregnates them, and then essentially leads them on? You know, what's interesting is that all of our moms were in love with him. That's the language that's been used. They were in love with him.
Right. Yeah, so you have this whole story initially from your mom that it was like this love affair. Does that change for you at all?
Yes, because the other sisters' moms also were in love with him and also were teenagers and also pined for him. My mom remarried my stepdad, but the other girls' moms did not remarry. They loved him until he died. And it's interesting because when I tell this story, people often say, oh, he must have been so charismatic. He must have been such a, charming guy. To which I answer, oh, no, I think he must have been a predator. He was 10 years older than my mom, and she was 19 years old.
And then as he continued to get older, the women remained in their
teens and early 20s. So they were all young. He was their boss. So there's 2 sisters that I've connected closely with. One of them is Dana and the other is Stacy. Not to be confused with the now biological father, Stacy, but I also have a sister, Stacy. Okay. Dana and Stacy and I have done a lot of investigating. We've now, talked to cousins and investigated more ancestry. And I think the more we learn, the more our origin stories become more confusing to us. What I do know, what is clear to me, is that our mothers were young women who worked for him. And that is a power differential that cannot be ignored. A lot of the people that we've spoken to, or the people that could give us answers, won't. My mother, for example, will not talk about it any further. The last thing she said to me, the last time I tried to talk to her about this, she said, I really can't believe you're going to let this affect you this way. I gave you a good dad, meaning my stepdad. She doesn't want to answer any other questions. My sister Dana's mom is deceased. She can't answer any questions. My sister Stacy's mom, I think it's painful. I think she's not wanting to talk about it or not ready to talk about it. And so we're relying on these stories from cousins and other relatives. There's this other layer too of the amount of secrets that are being kept. Even still, we talked about how Robert didn't call me when he got his DNA results. And come to find out, my alleged biological father, Robert, also had worked with Stacy. And so we got another version of the story that actually Robert had told Stacy that he was my real father. So there's just all these secrets being kept by all these different adults. Even now, right? Even now, secrets are still being kept. Robert won't talk to me about it. My mom won't talk to me. Can't talk to Dana's mom. Stacy's mom is not ready to talk about it. There's so many question marks.
I want to back up to when you found your sisters. Did you match directly with those two sisters on Ancestry?
No, I found them in a roundabout way. So I matched with a cousin, and I reached out to this cousin, and she was so gracious, and we jumped on the phone, and I had to say to her, I think your uncle Stacy is my dad. And she was not surprised at all. And she said, actually, I know of at least two others of you. And so that's how I found my sisters, Dana and Stacy Marie.
So Dana and Stacy already knew that Stacy, your biological father, was their father.
They already knew. They didn't know about me, and they didn't know about each other. Well, I get their names from a cousin, and I immediately, probably that same day, emailed both of them and said something like, hey, is your dad a man named Stacy? If so, I might be your sister. I emailed them, and they emailed me right back. And it's probably been the miracle of this whole nightmare has been these two sisters. My sister Dana, who is 3 years younger than me, she grew up knowing that Stacy was her dad, but she grew up not with him. Her mom took her away to a whole different state because Stacy wasn't going to leave his wife. He wasn't going to let Dana be a part of his life. So she and her mom moved. And so she grew up feeling fatherless. And so when I reached out to her and told her, I think I'm your sister, we just had this immediate connection. I think her email back to me was, I'm so sorry you've had to go through this. You don't have to go through it alone. And I mean, from that day, we've just been basically like drinking from a fire hydrant. Like we've just been taking it all in together and trying to figure it out together. She did then also do an ancestry test. And so now we have our genetic match in black and white.
Do you find that you are similar to your sisters? Have you gotten any of that genetic mirroring component that a lot of people feel like they're missing?
When I saw their photos, I knew they were my sisters. When I looked them up, when I stalked them, I remember, in particular, Dana looking at her photos online thinking, oh my God, we have the same smile. It was so weird to see that. And then my little sister, Stacy Marie, I messaged her. She got right back to me also, but she's 20 years younger than me. So her reaction, while she's been wonderful, I think she's still really like processing all of this. She grew up believing that he was a good guy who just didn't have room for her in his life, I think. And so here I come to her with like, actually, he's this guy who had multiple affairs and now has all these unclaimed children.
Were you able to connect or build a relationship with the siblings from Stacy's marriage?
No, we have not attempted that.
Do they know about you?
I don't know. I know that his widow knows about us. Actually, turns out she has always known about us. One of the cousins told us that she knew about us. And then his widow actually reached out to my sister Dana to see if she could talk to her. And about a month ago, we decided to put our story on social media. And I guess that got back to her. And so she reached out to Dana and said, I'm available to answer any questions you want. I think Dana's still thinking about whether she's going to do that. But in that, she did tell Dana that she knew about all of us.
What is the hesitation, do you think, about reaching out to her with any questions or to try to get more of the story?
I can only speak for myself, but I just don't want to hear anyone else's story about it. I've gotten 3 cousins' stories. I've gotten my 2 new sisters' versions. I probably have heard 15 people's stories regarding this man and how we all came to be. And I just don't feel like I can hear one more person talk about it. I don't want to hear one more person tell me what a great guy he was. I certainly don't want to hear anyone else tell me what a good father he was. It's dizzying, honestly. By the 3rd story from the 3rd cousin, I was dizzy with what is even the truth? Did he love my mom? Did he not love my mom? Is he a predator? Is he just a really charming guy? Is this all a coincidence? I just don't know what's true anymore. And so I don't want to reach out to his widow primarily because I don't really believe anything she's going to say is probably going to be true because the truth is so subjective.
Yeah.
Right? We hold on to the version of the truth that serves us best. And from what she has said to my sister Dana, she is holding on to the story that he was a good man and a good father who made some mistakes. I can accept that that is her version of the truth. We've actually heard that version from a couple of cousins. So I can accept that that's their version of events. But for me and my new little sisters, that doesn't feel true. So I don't want to hear it. And frankly, I don't want to make her tell it either. Out of respect for her, I don't want to call her up and ask her to talk about the multiple affairs that her husband had. How painful.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Do you feel like you want to talk to your other siblings?
That's a great question. They grew up with him as their dad. I guess I certainly would be open to it, but I'm not sending any more emails, if that makes sense.
Sure.
I reached out to Dana and Stacey Marie because I knew they were like me. I knew that they were unclaimed. And so I felt a kinship with them already before I even talked to them, right? I don't know if I'll reach out to the other 3, but I certainly will be open to any outreach that they do in my direction. We have an uncle, one of Stacey's brothers, has offered to also meet with us and talk with us. And I don't think I'm going to do it. I support my new little sisters if they want to do that. If you'd asked me before Christmas, I was trying to talk to anyone who would talk to me about this. And at some point, I just got dizzy and I got angry.
What are you angry about?
Here are all these adults, right? Y'all are all in your 70s. Grow up, get your lives together, tell the truth, right? And I mean this with no disrespect to my little sisters' moms, but also to them. Come on, y'all. Dana and Stacey Marie and I are trying to put our lives together. We're trying to put our stories together, not just for ourselves, but we have children who are going to hang their hat on our life stories. And you grown-ups cannot grow up and tell an objective story or talk for real about what happened. Some of them won't even talk to us at all about what happened. So I'm angry about that. And I've just decided I'm going to stay angry about that for as long as I need to. And I'm not going to hear one more person's story if I don't have to.
Anger's a part of it.
It has to be, right? For such a long time, I was in shock. For months, Alexis, I would just drive around in my car, going from one thing to the next, and I didn't even recognize the sound of my own voice anymore. Who am I? What do you mean that's not really my last name? What? that's not my ethnicity changed a little bit. I just drove around in a daze. Then I found the sisters and I started to wake up. But I also started to get a lot more information because of that. I think for the next couple of years, I just want to bask in the fact that I have little sisters.
Yeah.
I always had a little brother. My mom and stepdad had a son. And so I've always had a little brother and I adore him and he's been wonderfully supportive through all this. But now I have little sisters and I just want to enjoy that. Here's something that's also a part of the grief is if I'm being honest, I'll never know. I'll never know who this man was or why he created these unclaimed children. I'll never know his motive. I'll never know if he loved us. I'll never know if he really knew about us. It's all just story now.
Yeah. I've heard you say a few times that you and your sisters are unclaimed children. And then you just talked about that initial identity unraveling where you don't even recognize your own voice and you feel very detached from yourself. Is the unclaimed child piece a part of your identity now? Or how has your identity changed since you had your DNA surprise?
Yeah, I definitely own that unclaimed piece. It came to me last year when one of the first cousins I ever talked to when I was trying to get information about Stacy, and she referred to us as illegitimate children. And I thought to myself, hell no. I am 100% legitimate. And so it occurred to me that what we are is unclaimed. And I own that. And I love that. I love saying that. And to my little sisters, Dana and Stacy Marie, I claim you. I claim you. And that's kind of been like, I think the last couple of months, what I have really felt is, all the dismantling of reality, all these bullshit stories, all this confusion around all these daddy issues, right? What it all has done is it's left me with these two beautiful women who I get to claim as my sisters. And I really kind of feel like it can be my purpose now to fill the gaps that he left. Not that I'm trying to make up for, I'm not trying to be a parent to them or solve their hurt, but I don't know. I feel like I get to claim them.
Yeah.
It feels good to say that. And it feels good to be mad about it. And it's interesting too, like how grief and anger and love can all be wrapped up in these stories. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know you said that you are tired of hearing all of the additional stories, but are there any questions that you would like answered, like from your mom, for instance?
If I was able to ask her anything, maybe I would want to know, like, how did you cope with that, Mom? Like, how did you look at me every day and be okay with that grief that you must have had about him? What was that like, right? Like, that must have been so hard.
You mentioned that you had a slight ethnicity shift.
Mm-hmm.
What was that?
So I grew up identifying as Mexican. I always knew my mom is white. So I always knew I was half Mexican, or I always thought I was half Mexican, half white. But as I've taken this deeper dive into my DNA, I'm like 75% Irish, English, and very little Mexican.
Oh,
so that
wow.
just kind of blew my mind. I mean, I still have some Mexican American DNA, but I always just identified so strongly as a Mexican American woman, and I still do, right? But it just
being in San Antonio, right? Like there's a relatively large, Mexican population. So
totally.
I mean, you said you still do. Did it shake you a little bit though to feel that it wasn't as much as you had so strongly identified with?
It did. To go from thinking I was to thinking I was at least 50% Mexican to finding out I'm only like 17%. And that may not seem significant to some people, but like you said, I live in South Texas. I remember telling my husband and my daughter, like, let's not tell anyone. Like, let's never tell anyone that I'm only 17% Mexican.
Do people perceive you as Mexican still?
Yeah, I mean, I think in South Texas, if you have brown hair and brown skin, you're probably Mexican, right? So I think people do perceive me as Mexican, and I think assume that I am. And I love that. My stepdad was Mexican, so I grew up very much steeped in the Mexican American culture. And I am so great, to my mom's, argument of, well, I gave you a good dad. She did. My stepdad, Ruben, he was amazing. And this has kicked up a lot of grief. He died 10 years ago. I wish he was here, Alexis, because I feel like he would handle this. He was just that kind of guy and that kind of dad. Like, I know he would just get on the phone with people. I know he would, and just say, listen, right? She needs the truth. Tell her the truth.
Yeah.
So it's definitely made me miss him a lot.
Yeah.
It's wild.
How was your relationship with your brother?
Besides my husband, he was the second person I told, and he's been so supportive, but I think also sad. The first thing he said when I told him was, oh God, you could have other siblings. And so I think it's been sad for him. I think he's sad for me, or, he's feeling feelings for me. I'm guessing for him, it's that realization of like, oh, I'm not your only sibling anymore. But I've told him time and again, like, you are my brother. You are my number one. Nothing will come between us.
You have all the history, right?
We have all the history. We grew up together. We know all the things.
So you said you are kind of at a place of maybe not, I don't know if peace is the right word, but you're kind of ready to stop digging for what happens and the history and trying to get a picture of your biological father. So what is next for you?
I just want to get to know these new sisters. And if there are any other unclaimed children, I want to know them. I want to claim them.
What advice do you have for a parent who is keeping a DNA surprise from their child?
You've got to tell the truth. You don't have to tell the truth today, but at some point in that child's life, they deserve to know the truth. And I think no matter how painful you think it is going to be, there is nothing more painful than being lied to by one of your parents or both of your parents.
What advice do you have for someone who just uncovered a DNA surprise?
Oh, take your time. Take your time. That's the best advice I got from listening to your podcast and from my husband and my therapist, is that, because again, like when you first get the information, it's fight, flight, and investigate, right? Like you just I wanted to find out all the answers. And I had so many people telling me, just pause, take your time. You're going to get answers. It was really helpful for me to have permission to let it take time. I took some time off from work. You really have to make space for all this new reality. Something that I've learned again and again from your podcast is, I think for me in the beginning, I remember feeling like, oh, I don't want to mess up anybody's life. I don't know if I should send these messages or ask these people questions. I don't want to disrupt anybody's life. But this is my life, right? And if I need to flip some tables and stir some pots, we deserve to have the information. We deserve to have those pieces of our stories. And if it inconveniences some people, oh well. Oh well. That's the thing that I would want to say over and over again to someone who just found out is this is your story. Go ask the hard questions whenever you're ready.
Michelli, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your story. Just a year in, I'm sure a year of many firsts. I hope that you continue to build beautiful relationships with your sisters and maybe eventually uncover some of the answers that you're looking for.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Alexis. You're so wonderful and your story is so inspiring. And I just can't reiterate enough how much I appreciate and how much I've benefited from this podcast. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks again to Michelli for sharing her story. If you have a DNA surprise that you'd like to share, submit your story at dnasurprises.com. And for early, ad-free access to episodes, join me over on Patreon at patreon.com/DNA Surprises. Until next time. This episode of DNA Surprises was hosted, produced, and edited by me, Alexis Auerselt. It was mixed and mastered by Josh Auerselt of Siren Recording Studios.